Hello, everyone. Welcome to this live stream on An English View on Porto. We've got a massive game ahead as we're looking at Porto versus Sporting CP. As it says on the thumbnail, all or nothing. We shall see. But I'm delighted that we have a very special guest with us, and that is Rui dos Santos from the Porto podcast in English. Rui, welcome.
Hey Matt, thanks so much for having me on. I'm super excited to talk about Porto in this big game. A lot of frustrations this year, but maybe this could be the turnaround and finish the season strong.
Yes, hopefully. As always, for those who are watching live or or on the replay, do give your thoughts. If you're watching live, I will definitely be reading your thoughts out. So, as this is your debut on the channel, what have you thought of Porto over this season?
Frustrating, man. I thought the off season was great. So going into, we had an election back in April, and it seemed like the club was going into, a much more positive, modern direction. And it just seemed right that kind of like pushing Sergio off to the side and getting someone new. Vitor Bruno seemed really promising and everything. Transfer window was great, but unfortunately, all these promising signings and moves didn't really pay off too well this year. It's been really frustrating in the back, and I think a drastic change from having so many leaders, pure leaders. Having like players like Pep, players like Otavio, players like Mateus Uribe, who are, I mean, they were great with us, but that leadership quality or leadership trait in those players, I think, is really holding this team back. This team really looks immature, very raw. There's a lot of kids that have great potential to be great players and everything, but you need to get these guys together and mesh it all together to get this team functioning properly. There's been shades of great play and potential, but too much inconsistency, and it just seems like it's immature and crazy fundamental errors that have really been killing us this season, among other things as well.
Yeah, fair enough. Thanks for sharing that. I guess the next place to go is the Rio Ave game, which I spoke about in my short review and my player ratings, and you've got to speak about it on Chuga Tuesdays on Nino Torres' channel. The thing that I was mentioning a few times, and I didn't hear mentioned at all when you and the guys were talking about on Sugar Tuesdays, was the goals that were given away. It was caused by the defense playing out the back, even when even when Rio Ave was pressing high, and the high press and not adapting to going longer
Yeah.
resulted in the giveaways and the goals. So that was the thing that stood out to me. And I haven't really given any detailed thoughts about the game itself. So, but what did you think overall? Yes, what did you think?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right with how we gave up those two fundamental errors. It's boy stuff. This is stuff that that you should control when and adapt to already at this level. Like Perez and Otavio have been around the block already long enough, and it's two like WTF moments. It's just like, how can this happen? Like, okay, it happens to everyone, these blunders and everything, but like twice in the same game, and it's like the most fundamental. They had so many options to go about it, especially on Otavio's goal. Why did he have to play so short? Um, that I think it was Otavio's goal where it was the short ball that got intercepted and led to goal, and then Perez. I believe it was him just controlling the ball poorly and then giving the ball away, and it led to goal. It's like, yeah, it can happen, but like twice in one game, and it seems like it's not even just those those errors like that have been hurting us. It's just the defense in general. This entire season have just been so complacent. They are so disorganized, and that also goes back to Diogo Costa. You see Diogo Costa at times, it's like he's insecure. He doesn't really know what to expect, and it's making the job harder for him as well. He's not having the best season, but at times he makes great saves that he's supposed to make. But those errors really killed us against Rio Ave. There are some promising things in this game. I thought we were very aggressive right off the rip, right off kickoff. We were really getting forward. Rodrigo Moura was getting involved. Francisco Moura was getting involved. And even though Samu didn't really have too many clear opportunities on goal, I think he only had one shot on goal in this game. He was getting involved in distribution, which is great. He had a few key passes that, that you want to see in a striker. If they're not getting too many shots on goal, you want him to get involved, to get some sort of confidence and create and extend play. And we saw that from him. Just unfortunate that we didn't get a few goals on net, like promising goals, not these two goals that we scored, which ironically were scored by the two guys that made those defensive errors that led to goal. Um, but the Rio Ave's goalkeeper made some good saves, but we have to be. That's like another issue that we had even last year and even 2 years ago. We haven't really been as clinical in finishing, and Samu can't do it all himself. He's been super clinical when he gets his moments. He forces a lot of great shots that actually turn into goals. If we didn't have him this year for being as clinical as he was, I think we'd be in really big trouble. But we have to. It can't be just him that's scoring. It's got to be other players. But I was pretty happy with the way we came out in this game. It's just unfortunate that we couldn't get more goals in.
Yeah, certainly significantly better than a lot of the other bad results that we've had this season. The lack of leadership would also help, as you were alluding to. Is Diogo Costa captain material, albeit he was vice captain he was like second vice captain under Sergio Conceição.
Yep, when Pep was there, yep.
Albeit, I mean, he did show good leadership when solving the tension between Otavio and Diallo.
Yep.
But when it came to the other aspects, it certainly wasn't enough. And another grave example was not showing up as a leader in the last minute against Santa Clara when there was the penalty situation.
Right.
On the giveaways, so we had Perez with the first mistake, and then Otavio with the second. And Porto even got away with one between both defenders shortly before.
Yeah.
And it was with Clayton, who I think he skied the shot.
Yeah, he
But
did.
still, this is the sort of things that cannot be happening. And I understand getting used to the system, but you've got to know when to adapt when certain threats are coming. On the attack, Samu, I thought, whilst didn't get much opportunities to make a difference, I thought he was at least a presence, and Rodrigo Moura was doing something. The other player is somebody that I criticize a lot on this channel, Gonzalo Borges. I don't think I've ever expressed him to you before, but I just don't think he's done anything to warrant even than being a squad player, really, let alone
Yeah.
a starter. On a side note, last season he barely played, and
Mhm.
the only games I can really remember him playing was he came on as substitute in both Arsenal games, and in the second didn't do anything, especially in the second leg where he he, um, he ghosted,
Yep.
and maybe we could have got a draw out of that tie had maybe Ivan Jaime or somebody else had played in that position after Francisco went off. But of course, in this season, he's been terrible as well. Um, but at the last game, even the game before, who was it? I'm trying to think.
Was it the
Santa
Santa
Clara,
Clara
yeah.
game?
I
Yeah.
gave I
Yep.
gave him a 1 rating because he'd been. I gave him a 1 rating for the Rio Ave game as well. He he definitely should have been subbed off at half time.
Yeah.
Um, and who knows, maybe in the 15 minutes in the second half where he was on, we could have got another goal then. But still, this is a ineffective player that we definitely should have sold in the January window. If Zepedra makes a if Zepedra doesn't do his job at the back, then Gonzalo Borges is the same on the other end of the pitch. Um,
Yeah.
but and so certainly the rest of the attack as a whole do need to step up, seeing as not only has Samu been like the only out and out striker to be consistent, but in the last game the centre backs were the ones getting the goals, and it was the same thing against Santa Clara. Otavio was the player who scored.
Yep.
Um, you could even go as far as back to the Europa League as Gonzalez was the goal scorer. Not really had the rub of the green since the Boavista game. Of course, Borges did score against Gil Vicente, but still he wasn't consistent. We have a comment here from Sebastian, who is AIK Colo Colo and AC Milan fan, who says Porto has to win this game or the league is done. I was gonna get to that in a bit later, but I agree, and I'm sure you do as well, Roy.
Yeah. This is, if we want, I don't, I'm not one to say it's a definite thing. I don't think we're going to win this league. But if we want a shot, and this is what our team should strive for, the players, the coaches, everything, uh, we have to win this game. We're at home too. So there's a little bit of an advantage there that the Dragão is going to be packed, and
Yeah,
it's not an easy place to play in. Even when Porto's having an off season or whenever they're out of form or whatever, even in these big games, historically Porto do really well against Sporting and Benfica, but it really hasn't been that case this year. It's like it's not just against Sporting and Benfica; it's also in Europe. It's so uncharacteristic. Even years prior, in 2018, 2019 season, 2020 and 2021, and even last year, you can say that we did really well despite not winning the league, not playing the best in the league, but we made good performances in the Champions League against big sides, the grand competition. Um, so if we want to get that chance to compete in the league and even get second place, we have to win this game. There's
yeah,
that's but I'm not very confident because this team is just so different, and this is the first time in I don't even know how many years where I can say probably the first time in the last 20 years where this team really lacks its identity. I know there was a stretch where Benfica won 4 years in a row, and everything, but Porto still had they had their identity still. They were in shambles, but they showed much more fight. The team wasn't as good as compared to Benfica and even Sporting at times in that stretch, but this the that tripeiro gara, that grit, that northern grit, the Porto grit, it's just not in this team, and there's no leadership around that you can really rely on. And it's not that Hugo Costa's not doing a great job in terms of leadership. It's just he's probably the only one, him and Alan Varela, but there needs to be more. And them two alone are still very young, 24 and 22 years old. Like, is that who your entire team, who's also very young, is going to look up to? Two players that are still very young. Hugo Costa has a lot of experience. He's been the starter for 4 years, but outside of that, this team is very, very raw. So it's a very unique situation that we're in right now. And hopefully Anselmi has some tricks up his sleeves. And the first 45 minutes, I thought we played good football, even though we were unfortunate to go down into the half. But it was much more promising to see. So maybe after after that game and having a week's training preparing for Sporting, having the crowd on your side, this is the first big test for Anselmi, and he has to prevail.
Yeah, yeah. Sebastian, if you're still watching, oh, we love Sergio Conceição, especially Rui, who is also an AC Milan fan.
Yeah.
Um, but Conceição's like somebody that's we've been missing in like the European games and the games against Sporting CP and Braga. Even before it started falling apart for Vitor Bruno in January, I'd felt with him that we were going to do well in the majority of the games, but when the big games came around, I just couldn't trust him based on what we'd seen in that half season so far. And that Benfica game was the final nail in the coffin in terms of I can't trust him in big games. But yeah, hopefully my team will be able to push us in the right direction in that aspect and other aspects too. Have you got any other thoughts in regards to the Rio Ave game?
No, that's I mean, I thought our midfield was was much more effective, especially Alan Varela. I think this was
Oh yeah,
probably his best game. He was super present on both sides of the ball, even getting forward too. You saw his presence over the midfield line quite a bit, and making some great passes, extending play and everything like that. And also defensively, he does what he does. He's great at it. Um, so I thought our midfield was pretty good, and it's just I like the approach that we had, the 3-5, the three in the back, right?
yep.
I thought
We've got the wing
I
backs
thought
to
we
play that way as well.
exactly. I think we have two wing backs that can play in that formation and in that approach. It's just when you have three in the back, you have to have security back there.
Yeah,
I think all three of them are good players on their day. I think they're all still pretty young. They have a lot of learning to do. It's just unfortunate that we don't have a guy like Pep back there, just kind of anchoring everyone together, even making some cleaning up some mess whenever there is sticky situations in the back. It's a great approach, but with the three center backs that were in this game, it's the story of the entire season. They're just not as consistent, and when you have three players that haven't been as consistent and as complacent as they have been, it's it's a tough situation to deal with, because I think the potential is there, but for the potential for this formation to work and really get this entire attack clicking, those three really have to step up in this game, especially if Victor Gyökeres starts. I mean, given the form of our defense, it's going to be a field day for this guy. The guy's an absolute animal. He's an alien physically, uh, technically. The guy is an absolute beast, and our defense doesn't step up, he's going to have a great game.
Yeah, we'll get more to Sporting CP soon, and if Sebastian's still here, I'm sure we're going to be hearing him talk a lot about Victor Gyökeres. But yeah, let's get. I think I had something else that I was going to say, but it slipped my head. But oh yeah, it was. You talked about the midfield. Do you feel Steven Eustachio did enough against Rio Ave?
Yeah, I thought he had a pretty good game, and he was another player among so many others that have been inconsistent and not in the best form this season. I thought both of them were great, Varela and Eustachio in this game, and I think the formation and that and that approach to this game really just complemented the both of them. And Porto were very aggressive going forward. They were very confident on the ball, and they seemed like they were clicking. It was just unfortunate that we couldn't get a couple of open play goals. Well, we had a couple of open play goals, but they weren't really the best drawn up goals. They were pure defender goals. If a defender is going to score, those are kind of like goals that you expect. Like Perez was at the right place at the right time. Otavio just tried a shot, deflected off of the defender, went in. That's great. If a defender can create something, a goal like that, that's awesome. But we have to be more clinical on in the final third with our attackers. We have to get Sam of the ball and get him open into clear goal scoring opportunities because he's going to bury
Yeah.
them. And a lot of times this year, he kind of had to create his own magic and score some wicked crazy goals. So, but I think the both of them were great in the midfield. The whole team would seem pretty confident at times, and they were clicking. It's just finding that extra, finding ways to be more clinical in scoring these goals, these chances.
Yes. Let's talk on Sporting CP. Under Ruben Amorim, they had pretty much a perfect period of the season. Then they've had a bit of teething under their following head coach. Then Rui Borges came in, who started to get them into a positive set of games. I've seen a bit of them so far. I got to see against Boavista, which was a fantastic game. Of course, saw the loss earlier this season, and I've seen them beat Benfica as well. Were very good disciplined performance. So if nothing's to change, it looks like that they're going to go on and win the league. How much have you seen of Sporting CP, and what have you thought of them this season?
Yeah, I, I I think Sporting has, even though they've been dealing with some injuries, they've lost some players in the transfer market and everything like that, but they've been able to just kind of pick up where they left off. I think between the top three clubs, I think they're the team that has the most chemistry with one another. Um,
Yep.
and I think that's so crucial, even when you're kind of shorter on options than you were the previous season, when you were pretty much dominant and running away with the league. They're still finding ways to find other players that can do the same job that other players that have left and that aren't there anymore. And that's so key. I don't think their team is as good as last year, but they're pulling in results, the way that they're supposed to. They're not really dropping too many points against the smaller teams where we have been doing that. A couple of times they've done it, but they've been rebounding, and I think in the last few weeks, Sporting have been really just doing well. And this is with Pot being injured, this is with Gyökeres being injured. Um, and they're finding ways to win. They have a good system going, and they also have players that show a lot of leadership, that show a lot of toughness, and they're consistent. They're consistent on the back. I think they have probably the best duo, center back duo in the league, and I think that's super crucial when you're pretty much razor thin on attacking options because
Yes.
you're not really allowing crazy goals to come in. So you can force in, you can sneak away a goal or two, and then you're still holding a clean sheet, or you're just letting in one goal, and you're getting those 3 points. And they're like, just even aside from that, they're just starting to really click. I think in the last game this past weekend, they did really well, and they deserved the win, even though a lot of Sporting fans were going into this game kind of worried maybe they'll drop points because they're pretty much razor thin on the top, up top. But it seems like they weren't missing players, but they're pulling in good results.
And it's also worth knowing that since Benfica won the league, Sporting CP have been a fortress at home, which luckily we won't be going there tomorrow. But yeah, they've been good. On to In fact, before we have a look at the game, let's do some history reflection on this rivalry. And of course, for those who don't know, this is the third biggest rivalry in Portugal. Think like Barcelona and Atletico Madrid. Um, Previous years, last season, there was 2-2 draw. Well, last meetings, in fact. If you want to include all competitions, there was the Taça da Liga, which was a 1-0 loss. Early in the season, you had Sporting CP win by 2-0. They also won by 2-0 the prior season. There was also the 2-2 draw towards the end of the season at the Dragão, and the season before that, Porto won on home and away, including a 3-0 home win and a 2-0 away win at Sporting CP. So yeah, this is the sort of rivalry where I think my despise for Sporting's more exposed when we are to play each other. Usually in other parts of the seasons, it's more of a light dislike. If I wanted to go very crazy, I might even go neutral. But this is one of the ones where my dislike for Sporting tends to get clouded by my feelings on Benfica.
Yeah,
But yeah, what do you have to say in regards to this rivalry?
yeah, and it's funny how you bring up Atletico Madrid and Barcelona, how that's kind of like the similar rivalry with Porto um, and Sporting. And I think even like Real Madrid fans and Barcelona fans, they look at Atletico Madrid the same way that Porto and Benfica fans look at Sporting. The second team of the big city. Obviously, they don't dislike each other, but if you're going to look at, I mean, they do dislike each other, but when you ask a Barcelona fan if who they'd rather win the league, Atletico or Real Madrid, they're going to say Atletico, and the same thing for um, Real Madrid when it's Barcelona or Atletico. They'll want Atletico to win. And I totally get what you're saying, how the dislike for Sporting can be, clouded by the hate for Benfica. I feel the same way. I do dislike Sporting, but not to the level that I dislike Benfica. It's a pretty good analogy that you brought up earlier. But I think that's a mutual feeling among all Portistas. But to kind of answer what you were to reply to what you were saying, in the recent games going to like last season and up until now, even bringing up the Supertaça result in August, I believe it was, when we were down 3-0 to Sporting, and then we somehow came back and won
Oh
and won
yeah,
the
there's
super,
that.
yeah,
I
right?
also
But
remembered one or two. It was, yeah, 2 seasons ago. We'd also won the Taça da Liga
yep,
against Sporting CP.
yeah,
So it
and won
would have
both
been a
games in the league.
season where we would have won all the domestic trophies except for the league.
That's correct. Yeah, yeah, and like, and this just shows to tell like
And
where
the
this
Taça
team
de
has.
Portugal as well.
Yeah, and this just shows where like this team has kind of just fallen off over just these past 2 seasons, this season and last season. 2 years ago, you kind of saw the same thing at times, but I thought we were still a pretty decent squad. And we beat Spartan 3 times that year. But you know, I think we're just slowly losing that identity that we once had. And Spartan just have our number, and we can't just say that it's our fault. Like Spartan deserves credit too because they have a great system going on. They have good players, and they found the perfect replacement for now for Ruben Amorim. You know, João Pereira didn't do that great of a job, but Rui Borges seems like he's really found something with this team to get results, and it seems like they're going to win the league. Um,
Yeah.
but
Oh, you got something to add?
yeah, so I they just they just have our number now. Even so, when I was trying to bring up the Supertaça game, I don't really tout like I don't really
Read
just
too much into it?
I don't read too much into it. I don't
Yeah.
really praise that victory as much because, it's the Supertaça game. It's the first game of the season, and a lot of teams just kind of like don't look at it as like a great any like doesn't have as much value. But yeah, we won. It's great. But even just the way we won that game, we were just very fortunate to make the comeback. It was just two crazy mistakes that Sporting made, and we had some luck on probably three of those goals. And that's what got us back into this game and kind of get that confidence. We didn't really create it. Sporting just kind of made these mistakes that they shouldn't be making, and that's what really cost them the game. It wasn't like an all great performance by Porto that took the game from Sporting. I believe that Sporting was the better team that entire game. We were just fortunate to walk away with the trophy. So it's an issue now of what Sporting has been able to do to us the last 2 seasons. Um, and
Yeah.
it's I again going into this game, we have to break it. We have to break that confidence, and we have to
Oh,
show
yeah.
who we are. If we don't, it's we have to show some sort of fight.
Before I get right into the game itself, I will also say on if you look at the Wikipedia on the rivalry sections of Porto, well, it might either be on there or on the Port Auto Sporting CP rivalry itself. Somewhere it will say that the fans will unite in their dislike towards or even hatred towards Benfica. Somewhat you were somewhat alluding to unintentionally. But on to the game itself, we will talk about lineups for ups very soon. But how do you think? Well, we'll also get to predictions soon, so we won't give ours here. But how do you think this game's gonna be? How do you think it's gonna be like?
Uh, so not predictions, just like not predictions and results, just expectations.
Just how you think? What do you think's gonna like happen throughout the 90 minutes?
I think it's gonna be I think it's gonna be an intense game for sure. I think for our sake we have to control the midfield. I think Alan Varela and Eustáquio, who are two physical guys. Eustáquio is kind of a Tasmanian devil that can really cover a lot of ground and apply a lot of pressure on the opposition. I think those two are going to have a huge task with Hoymond and possibly Daniel Bragança in the midfield if they're going to have that duo there. We have to slow them down and we have to get around them. Hoymond is just an absolute uh, he's an absolute beast on both sides of the ball. He doesn't stop. He's been one of Sporting's best players the last few seasons. So we have to get around that, and we have to also control their attackers. And if Gyökeres plays, we have to slow him down. I think it's just going to be a very physical battle. I think Porto has to come out with the energy that we've always come out in these big games when it was under Sergio Conceição. Um, And I think Anselmi has to get that into the players' minds, and he has to apply that to the team's approach in this game to come out with a lot of intensity, hope to force some mistakes on Sparting to get on the counter attack and get some goals in. So I think it's going to be a hard fought battle between both sides, and I think Porto knows what's at stake here. If they want a shot to be competitive in the league, they have to come away with 3 points, and a draw is not enough. A loss is, it's just going to cause a lot more issues among the club, and it's going to be a lot to overcome. So there's a lot at stake here, and Sporting, if they can get away with 3 points for them, that's one less big game that they have to deal with for them to repeat as champions. So I think it's going to be a crazy game, but I'm not too confident for a result on our end, unfortunately.
Yeah. Porto go into this third in the league with 42 points and a plus 27 goal difference, while Sporting CP first in the league and a plus 41 goal difference. This is certainly going to be one we've got to win if we're going to stay in the title race. And arguably the previous Rio Ave game should have been as well, but I think there's still time for something to happen. But pretty much no excuses here. I think what we're going to see is we're lucky. We're also quite lucky that Ruben Amorim's not manager, because the experience, confidence, and knowledge of their system, which would be pretty similar to what we're playing now, would be night and day. So that would be scary. But fortunately, I believe it will still be another 4-4-2 by Rui Borges. But this is certainly a game where I don't expect it to be open. And I don't expect such a fast start like we had for the Porto 5-0 against Benfica. I'm expecting a well-fought game, pretty close. Certainly, concentration is going to be key, because moments will be influential in this game.
Yep, absolutely.
Anything to add before we go into the lineups?
I think that's a great way to to look at it. I think you hit it right on the head.
Yeah. Now we've still got a bit of time left, and normally what I would do is predict the lineups of both teams. But I'm going to add something to this. Give me the lineup you would personally go with, and then after I give mine, we'll predict the lineup we're expecting on Friday.
Yeah, so I would probably, for Porto, I would go with the same exact.
Oh, it's
Um,
worth noting that Otavio is suspended.
oh, that's right. So that's yeah, that's gonna be because I think I would have just went out and risked going with this three in the back, um, and probably take out João Pereira, but not João Pereira, João Mario, and even maybe deploy Pepe there because we've seen him in the past playing at a right back situation, and he did rather well because he covers a lot of ground. He's good going forward, and I think
Yes.
being as a wing back would be even more complementary for him because he has a lot more space to go forward. Um, so it's I don't know. It might be it's going to be a tough one. I think we
I'll
might since Otavio's out. I think we're gonna go. I think we're gonna have four in the back in this one and add like another midfielder. I would take out Gonçalo Borges. Maybe
Oh
even
yeah.
add Fabio Vieira in or Pepe in. Um, And I'm assuming the right back situation, you're going to have João Mario, or if Anselmi really wants to put Pepe there and have Fabio Vieira more as like the right midfielder, the right winger. Um, to be honest, I wouldn't have mind just going into this game with the same formation and the same players, but Otavio is out, and I would have just taken out Gonçalo Borges. I don't think this is the game for him. I think you would have to go with someone like Pepe in this game that covers a lot of ground, is a guy that he is an engine that doesn't stop running, and on his day he's a good player. So I think you need to go with more experienced players in this game because they've been surrounded in this situation before, and that's who you kind of need to rely on. Whether even if they're not in the best form, you have to go with players that are a little bit more on the experience side. But I don't know. That's what I would like to see. What I think is going to be the starting lineup.
We'll get to that
Yeah,
soon. But
is a
my
different.
11, if Otavio was available, I would have only changed Borges for Pepe. But you mentioned that the fact we don't have Otavio means we could possibly go to a back four, but the which would suit our defenders based on availability more. The only thing that would worry me on that is Porto have struggled in when there's not been that continuity and there's been too much changes. I'm partly tempted to put Martin Fernandez at right centre back. Um,
I don't know about that.
mm,
That's
um,
tough.
so
Oh, like in a back three.
yes.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah, okay, yep. I see where you're
Um,
going with that.
I'm also wondering, is Zaidu Sanusi better going forward or defensively?
Oh no, it's the I'll never hate Zaidu. I won't. I'll never hate that guy. I think he's one of those guys that like I will have a nice tall super block with and just hang out with this guy. He's a nice guy, complete professional. He scored that goal against Benfica back in 2022 to win the league at
Yeah.
Estádio da Luz. I'm always gonna love that guy, but he only has wheels. He's extremely fast. If he's better forward or defensively, I couldn't tell you because I don't rate him at all. I think he's
Is there the argument that he can be on the left side what Kyle Walker can be as a fast player in a back three? Um,
I don't think so.
regardless, I'll of course have Diogo Costa in goal. Normally I'll go from right to left, but because this third centre back's so difficult to decide, certainly Diallo and Perez will be in there, and I will also, yeah, I'll go Martin Fernandez. Although I do also like that idea of having Pepe on a right wing back. So yeah, Diogo Costa, Martin Fernandez, right centre back. I might change my mind on that. Of course, Perez, Diallo. Um, then I'd have João Mario at right wing back. I'd have Eustachio and Varela together. Francisco Mora at left wing back. Then I would go with Pepe and Rodrigo Mora in the two, and Samu as striker. And of course, there's another centre back called Zepedro, which I don't know if Rue's watched the channel enough, but I refer to him as a broken condom.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm not picking him. But if but if Martin wants to continue with that, then he with the continuity, then he might play. But let's predict the Porto 11 together. Of course, Diogo Costa's going to be in goal. Do you think he's going to go with a back three or a back four?
I think he's gonna go back four.
Okay.
If he does
Yeah, he
go
did do
back
that against
three,
Maccabi Tel Aviv,
yep. So if he does
which I
go in a
think I
back
might
three, I think
do
you're gonna
the
see
back
Zé
four.
Pedro in.
Yeah.
I think you're going to because Martin Fernandes doesn't really have that defensive, you know, presence. You know, he's more of an attacking right back. So having him as in the back three, maybe it could work, but given how complacent the defense is and disorganized and out of tune that they have been, just putting him back there, it's like I think it's just I don't even want to say it's a desperation move because I think it's like almost having like a death sentence defensively. I think Martins Fernandes would be better as your right wing back. Um,
I
but
think I'll change my personal lineup to like a 4-4-2 and
yeah,
but for the João Mario's not good as a general right back. That's the tricky thing. But yeah, you know what? I'm gonna go with a back three and have Zaidu Sanusi on the left side.
yeah,
Um,
you're staying away from Zé Pedro, man.
yeah.
I mean, he's
Because
done it
even when he came on
before.
against Olympiacos, albeit at right back, he was part of the reason we conceded. So yeah, I guess the players I know if we I think the one thing we're not sure on is are we going to go predict a back three or a back four? I'm going to say he sticks with a back three.
Okay.
But if you think he'll go with a back four, then I'm open to that. But if we're still not sure, I think the players we can certainly we're both predicting are Diogo Costa's going to be in goal. The centre backs will be um, Perez and Diallo. Um, Varela and Eustáquio are going to be the centre midfielders. We're going to see Francisco Moura, whether he plays left wing back or right wing back. I don't expect Martin Fernandes to play, so I would expect João Mario to play on the right. I think we're going to see Rodrigo Moura and Samu. I think they're all the players that we're expecting to start.
Yeah,
So
that's pretty
now
fair.
we're together. We're going to predict and fix the rest of the puzzles. So I think João Mario will play. Um, so I think he'll be there. Do you agree on that?
Yeah, I think so. Martins Fernandes didn't play in the last game, so I think João Mario, and even being a little bit older and more experienced,
Yes.
this could be another reason why we're going to see him at the right back position. But those other two positions or two or three positions that outside of the ones that we're pretty confident that are going to start. Are we going to see Gonçalo Borges again? Are we going to finally
Oh,
see Pepe? I think I think Pepe and Fabio Vieira will probably be in this game. They're more experienced. They do have good quality on their day, even though Fabio Vieira and you could say Pepe too, they've been really disappointing this year and inconsistent. But it's just pretty much the story of, I mean, like who else would you really put in that you're truly confident in and that have proven themselves to be starting?
Rodrigo
You know,
Moura is
the,
the only other one that could be in there.
I think all right because I factored him as a definite starter.
Okay.
Like even if we go like for me, I think we would probably go like a 4-2-3-1, and the formation's going to change throughout the game. Where I would have Rodrigo Moura more in the middle and Fabio Vieira on the right, and then have Pepe even move over to the left,
Ooh.
which he did play. Pepe did play that position in our championship season. Um, and at times too, he would play on the left side. So it's not that he's completely unfamiliar with that role. We are used to seeing him more on the right side, but he has played that role before.
Okay. If he does go to the back three, I think he will play Zepedro. His first name's Jose, isn't it?
Yeah,
Jose Zepedro. So if he does go to a back three, I think we'll see him feature. And I think further up the pitch, it'll be unchanged. Apart from, I think we'll see Pepe or maybe Fabio Vieira alongside Rodrigo Mora. But the fact we do lose Otavio, it's definitely a question of do we want to keep the continuity, or do we want to fit what we're doing around the players we've got?
yeah,
And
that's the
yeah,
question.
I
That's the
guess
big question.
I would be happy with that front three if well, not front three, but the three behind Samu if we are going with a back four. You know what? I'd be happy to predict that. There's two different ways of looking at it, and I think we're settled on the back on the if it's a back four. Do you think if it's a back three, it will be as I presented? Costa, Zepedro, Perez, Otavio, Jamario,
No,
Varela,
Jallo,
Sacco,
not Otavio.
Moro. Who?
Thiago
Yeah.
Jallo, not Otavio. Otavio's
Yes.
suspended.
Yes. Of course. Yeah.
Yeah,
I had Giancarlo in my head as I said his name. As I said Otavio's name, but certainly Mario. That same midfield four.
yeah,
Basically, we're expecting just two changes, and that's if it's a back three, we're expecting just two changes, and that's Zepedro and Pepe in,
yep, yeah. That
or
sounds about right.
Otavio and Borges. Yeah, so we've got two different. We've got two. We're both agreed on two different predicted teams, depending on the formation, but we haven't got a Sporting CP fan on here to predict their lineups. Um, so I'll just ask, and I will, of course, mention the names afterwards. Do you expect any changes for them to make after that win against Farennes 3-1?
Gyökeres.
Oh yes, of course.
That's that's the I mean, even without him, I think they can. I'm still not as confident. It's definitely a huge loss for them, and it's a little bit more of an advantage for us. But I'm still not confident, even if Gyökeres doesn't play, because Sporting just there's I think Rui Borges is implementing his system, and that chemistry that that team has, they're finding ways to win and just bring and just have players just step up when it matters most. That they have that, and they have a good team on top of it. It's not even just Gyökeres. I know that a lot of fans just put a lot of the spotlight on him, but there's so much good on that team that is overshadowed by Gyökeres, and sometimes they don't get enough credit that they deserve. That team is very good, even without Gyökeres.
True. It is worth noting that Jenny Gatamo is not going to be playing this game, so that's a
Hmm.
bonus. If we go off the last game, um, before I do mention the potential lineup, is what's the situation on Pedro Gonçalves?
So I believe he picked up an injury and he's going to be out for this game, and it could be 2 or 3 weeks without him. So
Okay,
Sporting they're razor thin going forward, and especially without Gyökeres, they're going to be in survival mode. But with what they have right now, they're finding ways to those players. They have the trust, and they've proven to do well and produce the team good results and everything. So
So the
they're still going to
lineups.
come out. They're going to still come out and do their own thing, just like they did this past weekend.
So we're expecting. Is it Rui Silva, the goalkeeper?
Hmm.
Um, wasn't sure in his first name. Right back, Fresneda, Diomande, of course, he's been playing there a long time. He'll be there. In Inacio, Araujo, and you also got so Gatama's going to be missing the game, won't he? Uh, who do you think is going to be playing on the right for them?
I wouldn't be surprised if Ricardo Iscaio starts for them on the right again. That's always a possibility, and he, like he's not like the best player, but he's been on the starting lineup plenty of times in the past for Sporting. At times he does his job, at times he frustrates a lot of Sporting fans, but I wouldn't be surprised if you see him in starting in this game. He started against us before, where I believe in both league games last year, if I'm not mistaken. We'll probably see him in his place.
Hjulmand, we're of course expecting to start. Bragnassa, um, if we're expecting an unchanged team, Bragnassa did get subbed off, but let's say he'll be in there. Quenda, and then the front two, either feeling. I'm sure. I reckon we're both going to agree on who it is that will come out, but I think we'll see Gyökeres and Trinicao, and we'll see Harder go back to the bench.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
two changes there. So let's go to our predictions now. I'll start with you, Roy.
So, as you mentioned earlier, I was on the Too Good Tuesdays and I showed my frustration and lack of confidence in this team. Unfortunately, in these games, I always say it could go either way because it's a big game, but I think Sporting are just in their groove and Porto is just trying to figure out who the hell they are. And I'm just gonna go with Sporting winning 2-0 in this one. I don't think we're gonna score. I think they're gonna play a great game, and I just don't feel confident. So, and especially if Gyökeres starts, it's not gonna look too good.
Yeah, it's a definite possibility. And as well as it is also we didn't even mention that on that the thing that did get brought up on Chuka Tuesdays that Sporting CP have not won at the Dragao for a while. For the neutrals, that is that is Porto's home stadium, so Porto at home. I'm thinking we'll probably see possession-wise 60-40 in Sporting CP's favour. I think they'll probably have more chances. Part of me thinks that Porto are going to score a late winner and make it 2-1. But my prediction overall, I'm going to say it's going to be Porto 1, Sporting 1. I think we're going to see a respectable performance from Porto, but I think we're going to be a bit short on quality. So yes, I have it as a 1-1 draw.
Yeah, not too confident, right?
Um,
It's
I
it's hard.
feel more confident than you, although
Yeah.
there's a few too many question marks that still I can definitely see a possibility in winning, but there's more pressure on Porto, and it's going to help Sporting, especially if they get a draw. But yeah, I've gone with a 1-1. Rui has gone for a 2-1 victory. Any final thoughts before the last step?
I hope I'm proven wrong. I hope we have a great performance. I hope Anselmi got this team all figured out and ready for the big game. And I think that's what a huge disadvantage was with Vitor Bruno. Going into these big games, it just didn't seem like I think he's a very good tactician and strategist. I have to give him credit for that. But I think in terms of like bringing out the best in players in big games, like we saw with Sergio Conceição, like we were talking about, like seasons that we weren't good, we had good performances against Sporting and Benfica. We had good performances in the Champions League. It's like against the big teams now, we don't have that mojo anymore. So hopefully Anselmi just turns on the switch on this team to get the team ready to, remember who we are and what we've always been known for. And I'm hoping that happens. And I hope I'm wrong. So let's hope for the best. But if I had to bet and put money on this game, uh, you know, I just don't feel confident for us right now. I wish this game happened a few more weeks down the road. Let's put it that way. So we have more or less an idea of who
Agreed.
we are.
Rui dos Santos, tell the viewers where they can find you and the podcast.
Yeah, so you guys can, well, our podcast hasn't put anything out in a while, but sometimes we post every now and then. But you can follow us on Twitter at FC PortoPodENG. You can follow my personal page at Ruizinho92. That contact is also on the Porto Podcast page as well. And yeah, those are the Twitter or X accounts that you guys can follow me on.
Yeah, there are many ways to listen to their podcast. I've linked the Spotify below in the description. My links are also down there as well. So consider the follows, the interaction, all of that's very much appreciated, and I would highly encourage it. But yeah, we're going to put it to a close here. Thanks very much for coming on, Rui. I am, even despite some of the teething issues, I'm still looking forward to this occasion. I've stacked up on the super box, and yeah, it's going to be hopefully going to be a night to remember. And yeah, I'll put I will be doing some sort of review after the game. I haven't decided whether it will be a short, a video, or a live, which you're definitely welcome to come on if you're available too.
Okay.
But yeah, we're gonna take it to a close. If anyone's joining late, you can go back and watch the stream. And so yeah, thanks for being here once again and for support.